Hi, Tampa Morgue Maniacs. I'm Sabathan, x-Enthroned singer, bass player, actually slower Messiah, Heinous, and Sabathan project that I play the whole and full material. It's a real pleasure to be here for the Tampa Morgue.
What's up? This is Tony, and you're listening to the Tampa Morgue Season 2, Episode number 97. And as always, I'm joined by my co-host from his studio deep in Tampa Bay, Florida, Mr. Ed Webb. How's life at the Webb Water Park?
Mr. Anderson, what's going on, brother?
Another day here at the morgue, man. How are you doing? I know you've had a challenging week.
Welcome to the ultimate adventure island in Tampa, Florida. Yeah, it's been a rough fucking week.
We'll put it like this. Everybody was at the Acid Bath concert except for Ed.
Not by choice, brother.
Yeah.
I had a, and I want to apologize to those who made that happen. I did not go on purpose. I had a very massive issue with my roof, which is less than 5 years old. and cost me a
During
fortune.
rain, right? It was raining this whole
Well,
weekend.
the short story is we're trying to get this bedroom where I do my podcast for Tristan, which I'm still going to use it for that. He wants to keep the desk in here, so I'll still have my room for that.
It's one of Ed's sons, by the way.
My stepson's moving back in, so I'm trying to get the room ready, and the ceiling, we were getting ready to paint. My wife bought paint. And I went and pushed on the ceiling, and it literally, the whole corner pushed in where you could see got wet. And I'm like, what the fuck, man? So I realized we got to tear the ceiling out. And it wasn't just, you think it's going to be one piece, and then it turns into the whole thing. And this is an old house, so nothing is straight. So trying to cut shit, and me and my son are ready to fight. My other son, Bryce, is ready to fucking throw down because he gets very attitudinal. So it was almost a fist fight 20 times in my house over stupid shit. And by the time I finished, it was 7:30. That shit's in Janice Landing, and I think it started at 7. And I realized, and I was, dude, I'm been congested for a bit, and I was wearing a mask the whole time, like one of these big painter masks, so I don't get sick. And I was just fucked up, man. And Joe's blowing me up. Chicago Joe, our boy from Generic Christ, is like,
We'll
"Where the fuck
be
you
on
at?"
here the next episode he'll be on to talk about the Acid Bash show, which he did say, and that the line was around the building. Like, he stood in line for 2.5 hours for merchandise.
Yeah, no, we saw that. I forgot what show me and you went to, and we stood there and looked at that because remember we were going to go look at stuff, and we were like, "Fuck that!" We looked from a distance. We're like, gave the
May have been
salute.
Cannibal Behemoth. I don't remember.
No, it was another show we went to. We were just wanting to look at. We didn't even, we don't buy. I'm not going to go stand in line to spend $50 on a shirt anymore.
Yes. So he was telling me it was, which I think is the average for a venue like Janice Landing. Now he was paying, it was $40 a t-shirt.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's just the way it is now.
It's probably a percentage they have to pay of the merch and stuff, I'm sure, at Janice.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I saw pictures and videos and was like, fuck me, man. The one show that I probably would have saw people I haven't seen in a long time, which, I was hoping, I was
Everybody
looking
was
forward
there,
to.
dude. Except for
Pretty
me and you,
much.
because I'm
Except
over
for me and
here.
you. Yeah,
Except for me
you're
and you.
there. You would have been there for sure. You would have, even if your leg was broken, you would have went. Yeah,
I
it
did see
sucks,
Anal
man.
Vomit. I did see one of our
You
guests from a
did.
couple weeks ago. I saw
the
Anal
video.
Vomit at Lemmy's over here in Lithuania in Kaunas, and it was fucking great. Caught up with Yano and the guys. They still have, I think, as of now, probably 32 shows left. But it was killer, man. What's cool though with the show we saw, at least here in Kaunas, was only 2 bands on the bill. So it was like the show started at 9, and you were out the door by 11. We hung out with those guys from Anal Vomit a little bit, but I took the wife. Awesome show, man. They killed it. There's actually, if you look at the Tampa Morgue YouTube page, there's actually the first like 8 minutes from the show I put up there.
Sounded good.
Yeah, dude, they were great, man. It was definitely
Good
killer
interview
show
too. So go back and check it out.
Yeah, definitely. And it's, speaking of interviews, I'll start out by saying we opened up the show with Enthroned, the track Tales from the Blackened Horde from the Prophecies of Pagan Fire record that came out in 1995 on Evil Omen Records. And we're going to be joined by Sabathan tonight, which Ed, I've been excited
for this
about
one.
this. Yeah.
But
I will say this. We do the intros before before the shows. This one, we decided to come do the interview now because we had some trouble with the sound. I've done whatever I can to it. It sounds better now, but there was definitely some sound issues going on a little bit. So
computer's not really meant for the microphone for picking up. I mean, it's for more Skype kind of stuff, but it really doesn't translate except for the newer ones maybe. But yeah, we tried to get him on the phone. So
he was a trooper, man, because he told me, he's like, dude, I'm not one for technology. But we made it work. So we spent, after the interview, did spend hours trying to get the audio good. So we got it as good as we can. For all you who like rough recordings of demos and stuff,
it does remind me of that old, I was thinking about when you sent it to me, I was like, man, that reminds me of the old Venom when they were talking to somebody on the BBC radio, kind of that old sound, that old school. Now, of course,
WSOU interviews were like that back in Jersey. You hear these, it was like phone interviews. So it kind of has that effect.
Well, the crappy part is we sound like this.
Yeah.
And so it sounds like we're talking to somebody in the past, but it's cool. it was a great, I mean, it is what it is, and I think you'll definitely enjoy it. It was a great interview.
And I got so much respect for that dude. We've been, like I said, me and Ed, we've been wanting to get him on for a while. I wanted to get everything set up. We had John Berry on probably like 2 months ago. So the idea was kind of keep it a little separated because you have the whole Slaughter Messiah thing going on. So we didn't want to put them on top of each other. So, I got a hold of Sabathan. He was like thumbs up right away. I mean, I cannot thank him enough for coming on the show. It's a great interview. Goes through the history. It probably would. To be honest with you, if the volume was a little bit better, it probably went a little bit longer. But we wanted to make sure we got what we got. So major respect to him for coming on the show. And Ed, I'll do this now because we'll get this out of the way until we get our commercial ready. Anybody who hasn't heard our show, you could go back and listen to it. This is episode number 97. We're creeping up on episode 100, which will be in 2 weeks. And you can go back and listen on Spotify, anywhere you hear podcasts, any podcast platforms. You can hear most of the audio on YouTube. Also, we also put the audio. We don't do video, so our YouTube channel is like a whatever, but we do put that there for people. Some of the episodes, we have Luis Ma from Hemorrhage, we did an interview with, Dawn of the Dead from Nunslaughter, Jeff Manis from Venom, Ritual Butcher from Archangel, Snowy Shaw from King Diamond, Notre Dame, Glenn Destructor from Destructor out of Australia, John Gallagher from Raven, Dave Austin from Nasty Savage, Pat from Hell Witch, Vincent Crowley from Acheron. We had the guys from Morgul from Finland on. Speaking of Finland, we had Harry Kokkonen on from Hooded Menace. He also played with Horse Latitudes. We had him on the show. We had Morbid Saint. We had Revik from Mordant Red on the show. We had John Walker from Cancer, Henry from God Throne, Gene from Angel Corpse, Lee Payne from Club and Hoof, and a bunch more. So you can always go back and listen to all those. They're pretty in-depth interviews. You can find them anywhere that you find podcasts. And Ed, we're going to try. We have been successful lately of keeping the intro somewhat short. And today I'm kind of on a tight schedule too. So we'll kind of do that. I do want to say next week we have Adam Scott coming on from Cardiac Arrest, obviously the vocalist guitar player. Be talking to Adam, which I'm looking forward to. Great band, great releases. We'll play some of their music, talk to him. The week after that, we have a couple of the guys from Luciferian Rights out of Mexico. They've been around since 2006, put out 4 full lengths. They don't do many interviews, so we'll be talking to some of those guys. So that'll be in 2 weeks. And Ed, before we get rolling, I am gonna. I don't know if you have any releases. I only have a few because I broke a lot of stuff's coming out next week, so I kind of separated it. I will mention the musicians who passed away, like we always do on episodes. Also going to mention actor Bob Elmore from Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, Leatherface, passed away, which is sad. He wasn't that old. Nope. I do love Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, man. Bill Moseley in that one. It's a great movie. Of course, the first one is to me is probably my favorite horror movie ever. One of the first things I saw as a kid that to me to this day, I could still watch the original Texas and it's still great. He passed away. Also, musician-wise, Roger Martinez from Vengeance Rising, Mortification, Sacred Warrior. He's a vocalist guitar player. He died at 62 of cancer. And then Linus Pilebrand, he was born in Sweden, vocalist guitar player. He died at 43. Played with Beneath the Frozen Soil, Crow Legion, and Nuke from Orbit. And also, I got to mention, Ed had like I said, Ed's had a rough week. And we're going to mention Miso the cat. Ed lost another pet this week. Sorry, Ed.
Yeah. That was a rough day yesterday, man. He got out and we were wondering, usually he comes right back. He's not an outside cat, but he had this adventurous side to go the fuck outside and whatever. I don't know. He's fixed. So it's not like he's going out looking for booty or anything, but I don't know. But my neighbor gave me some bad news that he found him underneath his tire. He was dead.
Not what you want to hear, yeah.
No, and from what I understand, it appears he might have been hit by a car, and that's probably where he crawled. And just, and it rained so bad, he said he was soaking wet, and he could tell he'd been, apparently gone for a little bit. So, yeah, that one, because this was one of, I have a bunch of useless cats in this house, but that one, I could hold him, cradle him. I could pretty much, I could throw that cat around. I mean, he was just
Not in a violent way, Peter.
No. I'm talking about like he would let you literally hold him in ways cats do not want to be held.
Yep.
Like I would cradle him upside down like a baby, and he loved it. He was just, I don't know, man. There's there's certain times like when you have that animal and you're like, man, you'll never get one like that. That was that cat, because I'm not a huge cat person. I never have been. But yeah, sucked. And it, of course, Bryce yesterday gets very emotional, so it was pretty fucked up. But yeah, Miso the cat, rest in peace, my friend.
Rest in peace, Miso. We thank anybody who sends us the passed away musicians that we read on the show.
Yeah, Roger Martinez was. It's funny when it's not funny, but when I saw that, I was thinking, man, Vengeance Rising and Mortification, even though they're more religious, they were both killer bands. Like the music and his voice was killer. I was like, man,
62. I mean, it's not. I mean,
Cancer
not that old.
sucks, dude. Cancer just fucking sucks. Not the band, just Cancer in general.
Yep.
John Walker rules.
Yeah, and again, John Walker was on the Tampa Morgue. So I have, like I said, a handful of releases and a little bit less than usual actually, and I have only a few shows. I don't know what you have, Ed, but I'll start out and just get these read so we could get Sabathan on here. And let me see here. And we also want to thank, obviously, Noella from Hexea, who was on last week. Anybody that didn't hear, their new album came out this week. She's out of Texas, and she was our last week's guest. Okay, so I'm going to go through the releases here that I have. Incinerated out of Indonesia, death metal band. The Epitome of Transgression is the name of the record. It's going to be out on Black Seed Productions out of Spain. Incinerated formed in 2014, put out a demo in 2016, an EP in 2017. The Epitome of Transgression has 5 tracks and is the follow-up to the band's only full length from 2020 that was titled Stellar Abomination. Transgression comes out on June 30th. Meth Leopard out of Australia, grindcore band. Name of the record is Gatekeepers. Label, let me see here. Label Wise Grind Records. Meth Leopard formed in 2015, put out their first demo in 2015. They put out 8 splits, 3 live albums, 2 comps. Gatekeepers will be Meth Leopard's second full length. It has 10 tracks and is available July 1st. Disrupted out of Mexico, death thrash metal band Chasm of Eternity, Concreto Records out of Mexico. Disrupted formed in 2013. First release was a single that came out on a CD titled Tomb to a Shapeless Life. This will be the band's third full length. Disrupted features members past and present of Demon Death, Prelude to Damnation, Storm Chaser, and Lethal Creation. Chasm of Eternity will be out on July 1st. Mortal out of Costa Rica, death metal band Altar of Brutality is the name of this one, on Nuclear Winter Records out of Greece. Mortal formed in 2016. The first demo came out in 2017. They have released 2 EPs and a split, and this will be the band's debut full length, and that's July 4th. Torture out of Chile. Death thrash metal band Burning Alive is the name of this one. This is the first time I've read a live album, but it was sent to me, so I will. Usually I don't announce the live albums, but this comes out on Austrias Records out of Chile. Torture formed in 89. The first release was a 1990 demo. The band has put out 6 full lengths. Burning Alive is recorded in Chile at a show in 2024. 10 live tracks. Torture has members past and present of Nuclear Fire, Darkness, and Morbid Reich. And that's available July 5th. And that's all I have, Ed, for releases. I don't know if you have anything over there.
Just have one, because you already mentioned the new Sodom last week, I believe, yes. And that did come out this past week. But this band is called Shadow of Intent. I've heard them in the past. They're very fast, kind of in the vein of Black Dahlia Murder, maybe, which I dig them. I like Black Dahlia Murder. I always thought Trevor was a great singer. Some people don't like it because they call it, I don't know, it's not even metalcore. I don't know what you would classify Black Dahlia Murder, but it's called Imperium Delirium, and 12 songs. And I did see that they are playing in Tampa at the Youngling Center. It's not till October, but they're playing with Lorna Shore, which is definitely one of those screamo.
I have not heard of them. I've heard the name, I think.
They're kind of like Slaughter to Prevail, those type of bands. Black Dahlia Murder, Shadow of Intent, and Peeling Flesh. And I've heard Peeling Flesh, so that's a pretty diverse concert there, because it seems like there's a bunch of metal bands on there, like you should have. You should not just be the only band that's death metal on a tour, or not on a tour. You shouldn't just have all bunch of hardcore bands. You should have a death metal band.
Yeah, it's always nice to mix it up. I mean, there's nothing worse than going to
I
see
agree.
these 5 exact same bands.
Death metal bands only playing with death metal bands is kind of silly. In my opinion,
nice
you
to
have
see
to
a
be
nice
diverse,
mix.
because if you want to get more people on hearing your stuff, you got to be a little more. Look at Obituary. Played with Prong. They've played
Black
with
Label Society.
Black Label Society. They played with Hatebreed. They've played with a bunch of bands that do not gel with death metal, and it only made them more popular, because if you watch Obituary play, they're great. I mean, it's just more, but I mean, they are a little more, non-technical. So it's probably a lot easier for people because, you get somebody out there playing with Hatebreed or something, and they're out there just fucking, like Deicide, maybe. That may be a little too extreme for Hatebreed dudes. Those kids they're like, what the hell is this? But I mean,
good for them.
Yeah, I think you should be a little more diverse and have more concerts that have different types of music, so everybody gets to, experience different shit. Otherwise, man, you're just stuck in a loop.
Yeah, there's nothing worse than that. But I definitely like a little variety. I like when sometimes I'll go see a show and there's like a couple of thrash death bands and a death band, whatever, black metal band. But I do like instead of being the 5 of the exact same things, and speaking of shows, I don't know if you have any shows. I have a few here. That's it. I think next week I noticed, which we'll talk about a few things next week. There's like a shitload of stuff going on in the Tampa Bay area during that time period, in Florida in general. I know tonight, it matters when people hear this actually, so it might be tonight or it might be tomorrow. I did see at Janus Landing, speaking of Janus, Carnifex, Suffocation, Distant, let me see here, Monochromatic Black, and Devourment, I'm sure I'm maybe missing one, is playing, and the same lineup is actually playing Wednesday, July 2nd at Revolution Live in Fort Lauderdale, and then July 3rd at 5 in Jacksonville. So that tour is going through. Also, I have Friday, July 4th at Bodego Bloodbath. So I actually can't find the name of this venue. Maybe it's called Bodego. I don't know. But it's Play Dead, Ramtha, Sacrilus, The Burial Ground, and Bad Future. But I will tell you the address of the club. So, 4624 North Hubert Ave. It's $15 at the door. And the only other show I have this week that I saw, Musgrave Booking presents July 5th at the Brass Mug, Dead Weight, Fear of Infirmity, Dissectomy, Blue Corpse, Law of Casualty, and Crypt Keeper. It's $15, all ages, but you got to be. Let me see, yeah, it's all ages. I guess you have to. If you're a minor, you have to have an adult with you. Doors at 6:30. And that's 1450 Skipper Road, Tampa, Florida. And Ed, unless you have any shows, we can
Nope,
get.
only one I saw was the Carnifex show.
Yeah, so that's like 3 days. Like I said, I know tonight when we're recording this, they're playing at Janus, so people may hear this way after that fact tomorrow or something. But after that, July 2nd and July 3rd, and for some more Florida dates.
This is picking up.
Yeah.
Acid Bath, Suffocation, Hatebreed's coming. I mean, it's it's definitely they're picking up.
Is Suffocation on that Carnifex show tonight?
I thought that's what I saw.
I think you're right. I left Suffocation off there. So add Suffocation to all those dates.
No,
did I?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm getting a little burnt out in my old age.
That's why I was like, I forgot that they were, because that's not generally, I think, a tour that they would probably, that they would do. But again, going back to what I just said, Carnifex is not like Suffocation. So you've got two different worlds,
two things aren't always the same.
That's what I think, but
yeah, no, you're right. Suffocation is on that.
Yeah.
So yeah. So Ed, I say we get Sabathan set. We get the show started with anybody. Like I said, we appreciate everybody who listens, and then we'll come back at the end and say goodbye. The ending will be probably pretty fast because, like I said, this week the schedule is pretty tight. But is there anything else you want to say in the beginning of the show, Mr. Webb?
Nope. I think we said it all. Let's get them on and hope everybody enjoys it.
Yeah, so as we bring him on, we're going to play Slaughter Messiah, Crypt of the Undead from the Morbid Reincantations record that came out in 2016 on Goat Coal Symphonies. And we'll be back with Sabathan after this. This is Slaughter Messiah with Crypt of the Undead.
If I read my feeling my soul grow, I fall into darkness with the blood and pain. The skin, rotten flesh, and evil mighty lords. And blackened skies surrounding me, I surrender to their call. Is it the place where evil was born? I feel something attracting me there, calling me like if I knew this place before. Living in cemetery, struggling me to join them in the grip of the undead. Crypt of the undead. This silent place seems forlorn and still, but as I wander through skirts about, I feel a presence near. Some whisper telling me to share my very soul. It sense of life and its paradox. It says, listen to my tale. I was born here 200 years ago. I died here and my bones whisper, purified by the flames. I swear the oath to Satan and ridiculous for souls around. My ashes reburn and my soul decorate and again. Doomed by night and I stay to living. My soul will go to perish in lost in my child. The old one says they've seen my version of the only place. I did the last of my regret many years ago. I never returned to the muddy well. I never stepped here once more. Time not to recognize another body in another life, another generation. Back to the place where I was born. The root of all evil. Demons waits for me. Living the cemetery is crazy. The crypt of the undead. The ghost of the living death. Crypt of the undead. The best of all inhabitants. Crypt of the undead. Forever dead, forever fear. Crypt of the undead. Crypt of the undead.
And that was Slaughter Messiah with Crypt of the Undead from the Morbid Reincantations EP from 2016. And we are joined by Sabathan from the band. How you doing, dude?
I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm very glad to be invited by you guys. So I'm fine. Very good.
Yeah, man, we're glad to have you on. We wanted to actually, have you on for a while, man. The last thing you guys did, I think, you guys just played the Black Chaos a few weeks ago with Anal Vomit and Vomit Messiah in Brussels.
Yeah, exactly. It was last weekend. It was our last show. It was really great to have played and shared the stage with the guys from Peru. Handel Vomit is a kill band, and old, very old friends too. And also Execution Rights from France, which is a brand new band who just released the first album. They're absolutely brilliant, and it was absolutely amazing to share the stage with those quality band and real metal.
And Ed, you guys played together. I was looking at some of the past dates. And Ed, you and Sabathan played together at Metal Threat in 2023. It was Possession, Morgul.
We did.
Exactly.
We sure did.
For me,
Nasty Savage.
yeah, exactly. The lineup was just amazing. It was more than a dream to share the stage with bands that I used to listen in the 80s, such as D10, Nasty Savage. So it was a real pleasure to have been invited to play there. Uh, the festival is absolutely amazing, and the response we had was absolutely brilliant. Because you have to know that I didn't play in the USA since 25 years. We did a tour with Enthroned in the USA in 2001, something like 2 or 3 weeks after the terrorist attack of the 11th September. And due to that tragedy, there were almost no people to our shows. But it was so fucking amazing to have been back 25 years later in a fucking killer festival as a Metal Threat. Plus playing in Chicago in a fucking killer venue, sharing the stage with such brilliant bands, killed bands. That's absolutely priceless.
And you guys are playing Metal Threat, which I mean the lineup this year is insane. I mean it's almost unbelievable to be honest.
Exactly. We have been invited again by Paul, the organizer, to play this year with Slaughter Messiah this time. Yeah.
Yeah, because the last time you played with Ed, it was Sabathan, your other, obviously the self-named band.
Yeah, exactly. First time was with Sabathan. Sabathan is my project that I play the whole Enthroned. I play the first album of the band that when I used to be a part of it. So they're really early days from the demo to the Excess Reading Room album. So from '93 to 2004, that's my time as in Enthroned. And with Sabathan, I exclusively play this period of Enthroned.
Yeah, we're going to talk about all that tonight, man. And we're going to start out, on this show, we always start out from basically before the bands. So you're born in Namur, Belgium?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm born in Belgium, yeah.
1970, correct?
1970, exactly. I will turn 55 this year. Yeah.
What memories do you have of growing up in Namur?
My first band was Morbid Death. Back in I have formed this band with Dan, the guy, the ex drummer of Enthroned, the one which was the former member of the band with me, Cernos. Cernos was his name in the band. In 87, sorry. In 87, we formed Morbid Death. We have released 2 demo tapes. The first one was released in 88 and was called Demoniac. And the second one was released in 89, was a Sin of Pride. The third demo, I was not on it, sadly, and it was Diabolic Force.
Yeah,
I just used to play the bass guitar on this band today.
Yeah, we're gonna play some of that tonight too, actually. And your influence. So, like when you were a kid, do you remember the first I'm talking before before the Black Sabbath, before the metal bands? Do you remember the first piece of music as a little kid you remember hearing that caught your attention?
Of course, you know that I'm the youngest boy of a 3-brother family, and my older brother, which is now 70 years old, introduced me in the Pink Floyd, Rush, Black Sabbath, of course, Nazareth, Deep Purple, Led Zeppelin, and I had the chance to have been born and raised inside rock music.
Your brother played in bands, which we'll talk about too, which basically started your journey out.
Yeah, my older brother used to play the band in the 70s and the early 80s too. Sadly, now he stopped music for a long time. But by him that I've been raised inside rock and hard rock music.
Your brother was playing in the 70s, right? And you're at 10 years old. Your brother took you to a rehearsal and then a show 2 days later.
Yeah. Well, I'll say when I was born in 70, my older brother had already 15. And I've seen him playing bass guitar. He showed me and he learned me how to play bass guitar, and that's all the things that started for me. Directly, I can say, just after the cradle, when I was a child, a really young child, and my first impression that I've been struck is when I've seen Kiss on TV in '78. Then I say, wow, those guys really kick ass. And it's what I want to do later.
Yeah. So I'll have to ask you now, makeup or no makeup with Kiss? Got to be the makeup period, right?
Yeah, of course. In '78, it was the Dynasty tour.
Do you remember the first record you personally owned?
Yeah, SCDC Highway to Hell.
Ah, nice.
And the
Nice,
second
nice.
one was Killer from Iron Maiden.
What were some of the stores you were visiting as a teenager? Like some of the music stores in your area?
Yeah. Actually, after leaving the countryside, I had to take the train to go in the city to a music store. But in the very beginning I started to listen to hard rock and metal music. It was my oldest brother who bring me the records at home, so I used to listen to the records with my whole brother. And when I've been a teenager, of course, then I start to go to the city to buy my own record.
And you mentioned, you obviously when you were 10 years old, you went to your brother's concert. So was Kiss your first concert outside of that, brother? Like you went to your brother's show, but like your first big band. Do you remember the first metal band you saw that wasn't your brother's?
No. My first metal band I've seen was in '85, and it was the Seven Days of Hell from Venom with Exodus in opening. Because they were not Metallica on this date, it was Exodus. And that was my really first show in '85. And in '85, I was 15 years old.
What were some of the venues you were visiting in your hometown? So the concert venue.
This concert venue was in Germany, and because my cousin was in the military, and I used to go back in Germany with him, and he was a man like me, and when he bring me to see the show. So everything started in family. I've been raised in a very good family.
And I know you're a huge Rush fan. I've read before that you've said that Rush was
Exactly.
just as much of an they're just as much of an influence on you as Venom was. I've heard.
Yeah, exactly. The Rush have stuck me for there were so much great musicians playing progressive rock, but not boring progressive rock. It was progressive rock with balls. For me, I remember many people in the early days of Rush say they are a Led Zeppelin ripoff, but it's absolutely false. Rush always had their own entities. When you listen to the first Rush album and Fly By Night, it's not a Led Zeppelin ripoff. It's pure Rush. They have their own entities in the beginning. And what struck me in that band is of course, Geddy Lee, the bass player, one of the best voice of hard rock, and one of the best bass players. Of course, Neil Peart. I'm fucking begging for. I'm not a drummer, but you cannot not like Neil Peart if you are a drummer. Neil Peart is a god. And Alex Lifeson style, guitar style, absolutely genius. It's those guys are not human. They are.
What's your favorite Rush album?
It's hard to say, man. It's hard to say. They are all completely different. But I cannot say this one. They have different periods. If you take the '70s Rush, they are more hard rock, Led Zeppelin Deep Purple style. If you take the '80s Rush, they are more with keyboards, something a little bit poppy new wave. But it's absolutely brilliant pop new wave music. If you take the '90s Rush, it's a little bit back to the roots of the '70s with more hard rock influences. But if I have to pick up, of course, one of my favorite Rush albums is Moving Pictures. But it's because they totally reached the top of the top with that album. But it's not the best album. It's just that all the songs are totally stuck in my head when I listen it. But I can also say Fly By Night is brilliant, 2112 is brilliant, Hemisphere is brilliant, The Farewell to Kings are brilliant, Permanent Wave is brilliant, even Signals, Raise Under Pressure, Power Windows, Audio Fire. It's difficult to say that we have just to point only one album in the Rush discography. They're all
What
fucking
did you
genius.
hear first, Fly By Night or 2112? Because you figure what that's those are the
Uh,
70s records.
no, the first I heard from Rush was Accurate of Steel. And it's also a fucking brilliant album.
75?
74, I think. Well, 70, yeah, 75, sorry. Just after Fly By Night, yeah.
And I've also
The
heard that you were
second,
also
the second album with Neil Peart, because on the first Rush album it's John Lutze, another drummer, but a fucking great drummer too.
yeah, me and Ed actually, we know a guy in Tampa who we actually used to record with, a guy John Wesley who played in a band called Porcupine Tree for a certain amount of
Yeah,
years, and he
I
used
know
to
the
ride.
band, yeah.
Yeah, he used to ride motorcycles with Neil, and I remember he would tell us about this, and I was just like, "Man, that's so amazing!" You know, I mean, to me that was
Yeah,
like crazy because growing up in high school, everyone knew that Neil Peart was like, it was like a god. You know, like you said, on the drum department. So he used to tell us the stories at the Red Room Studios, and I just remember sitting there being like, "Wow, man, like that is insane," you know. But um, I've also
yeah.
read that. Go ahead.
What I like to Rush, they play progressive rock, you know. And of course, in the beginning it was more hard rock, but they have this fucking balls, you know, fucking aggressivity. The voice of Geddy was very strong, very you know, and they have this fucking uh, aggressivity and power that I have always heard in my own creativity, you know.
And Geddy Lee, you know, you hear that voice, you just know it's him.
Yeah,
That's just one of those guys, you know.
genius voice, you know,
Yeah, Geddy
very
Lee, the Bon
high
Scotts.
pitch,
I mean,
you know, very high pitch, you know.
yep. Yeah, I know, and you know, and I've also read you were very influenced by classical music. You called it the roots of everything, pretty much.
Yeah, this is by my father. My father was a big classical music fan, you know. He was also a music teacher, so I've been raised into that music too, you know, parallel to rock and metal, you know, with rock and metal. So I hope my accent, I hope my accent is not too strong for you guys.
No, 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 not at
Okay.
all, man. When do you start getting into like the Venoms and the King Diamonds and the Merciful Fates and stuff? Like, when do you know start making that changeover?
When I entered to school, to the secondary school, you know, because then I used to, I told you, I always lived in a small village in the countryside. And then I went to school in the city, nearby here, Charleroi, nearby 25 kilometers from here. And then I met people who make me listening and discover Slayer, Venom, Merciful Fate, Creator, Sodom, Bathory. And it was done, my best friend that I met at school in 85. All his team of friends at that time were all fucking metalheads, you know, going to school with a battle jacket with studs and spikes and gold belts. Because at that time we could go to school dressed like real metalheads without problems. Something we cannot do anymore now. But and then it's there that everything started because coming from my countryside with only my classic stuff like Deep Purple, Rush, Nazareth, Led Zeppelin, then I discovered much more another form of aggressive metal, and of course, totally changed my life. You know?
Yeah. And you mentioned Dan, you know, we're going to talk about him too, obviously. Were you familiar? What year did you meet him again? And were you familiar with the Bonebreaker, the other band? What he was in there, 85?
Yeah, he was in Bone Breaker when I met him. When I first meet him in '85. Yeah, but they never recorded anything. It was just schoolmates band. Yeah.
Well, around 15 years old, right? 86, you hear Bathory's 1985 record, The Return. And
Yeah,
this has a big
exactly.
effect on you.
Yeah, absolutely. This fucking song of guitars with full of reverb coming from deep of the entrails of hell, There's this fucking voice of Corton, totally possessed and demoniac, That's what I wanted. That's what I still beg for. I cannot listen to something else than this. For me, this is the meaning of black metal.
And
Yeah, the meaning of black metal must be like this album from Bathory. That a really dirty sound, a voice coming from the deep of hell, from deep of the entrails of hell, with full of evil inside. This is really the meaning. And also, of course, Merciful Fate in another way. They were sounding more heavy metal. When you listen to the the voice of King Diamond give me the shivers. This is really evil.
yeah, 80s, what? So 86 at 16, you first pick up, you start playing bass. Your brother gives you the lessons and stuff. And, and in the 80s,
I got lessons from my brother playing bass guitar, and of course I started my first band in 86, 87 with Undead.
and also 87, you're 17 years old around this time period. And you start working on your vocals for Under the Sign of the Black Mark in the woods.
Yeah,
Rehearsing?
exactly. That's the anecdote. I was so stuck and so entranced with the voice of Corton. I said, my God, I'm not a singer in Morbid Death. I don't sing in Morbid Death because in Morbid Death it was certainly not the singer, but he had more death metal voice. And I said, my God, I want to develop my voice too. And I used to go in my area here in my village in the woods with my Walkman. You remember the portable tape player back in the 80s?
Oh,
With
yeah.
my headphones. I used to play Under the Sign of the Black Mark from Bathory. We used to go in the middle of the woods to have this reverb and have this dark atmosphere and very scary atmosphere. And I used to yell like a crazy to imitate and to try to develop the same kind of vocals than Corton. I was a teenager, a bit stupid, sorry, but just like that, the thing started.
You actually had a guy call the cops once because you were out there when he was walking his dog?
Yeah, that's another anecdote. That's true. Uh, around the woods here, there's a lot of paths inside, and you have all the people who do jogging, footing, and all. And probably the guy was scary or 2 years old. Who is that guy in the street like this? What's happened here? And he called the cops or something. And when I've seen the blue light of the cops, I went hiding somewhere in the rocks. And they never found me. They come with the torch. They came with the torches in the woods to look what happened, but they never found me because I was hidden in a kind of cavern. And
And
it
you
was
put your,
just me alone. It was just me alone, training myself to develop my vocals.
yeah, I think I had heard you say once that you were going out there like twice a week and doing this.
Yeah, something like this. Yeah, after my school. Even the
Yeah.
weekend, sometime, even with some friends. That's different.
Which I mean, we'll talk about tonight also because actually at the end of the show we're going to play. You did a Bathory cover of "Dying Fire," which with Slaughter
Exactly.
Messiah, which actually roots to John Barry joining and a whole bunch of other shit we'll talk about later on too. You know, yeah. So you do that, and like you said, 87, 86, you guys are forming Morbid Death. It's your first band.
I was at school, so I was studying. And meanwhile, I was always inside my video, making tape trading. Listen, I used to start tape trading, ordering demo and trading demo when Morbid Death released the first demo in '88. So, and it's all I started to have contact with other bands, with other people, trading demo tapes and all.
Who were some of the bands that you were trading with back then that you remember?
For example, Mike Browning from Nocturnus.
We know Mike.
Yeah, great guy. Also, Johnny from Unleashed. At that time, Theo from Asphyx, but Theo died many years ago. Chris Pfeiffer from Autopsy. We got to change the demo by from USA. That was mainly those bands. Probably a lot of others, but I don't ever see in my mind now, right now, because So Usurper guys too, but it was way later. With Usurper, I was already Enthroned, and we trade. It was Derricata, of course, and all those bands from USA. I tried to remind me the band from USA that I traded with them back in the days. So.
And the first Morbid Death logo, was that the one done by Christos Vidal?
The very first, no. Christos Vidal made the Blasphemy on the logo, which was the band of Cerninos after Morbid Death. We released the first album, one of the first album signatures of Osmos Production, the album R.I.P. This was the continuation of Morbid Death, but Hervé from Osmos asked the band to change the name, and they changed to Blaspherion, but I wasn't a band anymore at the time because I was out of school and I had to find my first job and no time for music. That's why we later meet each other, Cerninos and me again, to form Enthroned,
Yeah. How does the drummer Fabrice get involved with Morbid Death?
Fabrice was the second drummer of Morbid Death. The first one was Fabian. And Fabrice played in Enthroned later after the death of Cerninos. He replaced him, but he completely disappeared of the metal scene, actually.
What was
because he was a great drummer. He was a very good drummer. He just said that he disappeared.
And what was the first song you guys wrote in Morbid Death together, you and Dan?
Was the Diabolic Force demo, but it was the song Ritual Carnage, if I remember well. It was one of the first songs I composed and I started to play with Dan. The Ritual Carnage, and also Demoniac was the first song of the demo. But the problem we had a very extremely bad sound quality recording when we recorded this demo because we had no budget at all. We were all students, really poor, and we recorded the demo with a tape player. The kind of Tascam tape player from the 80s. That's why the sound quality is not good. It's only with the second demo that we had the chance to go in a real recording studio.
Now, actually, I'm going to play a track from the Demoniac demo. I'm going to play Total Violence from the '89 demo.
Yeah. Total Violence to Death, the second song of the demo.
Yep, we're going to play that now. We'll be right back in a second with Sabathan from Slaughter Messiah, Morbid Death, and a bunch of other bands we're going to talk about tonight. So this is Total Violence from the '89 demo. We'll be back on the Tampa Morgue after this track. was Total Violence from Morbid Death from the demo from '89. So you guys, what was the first Morbid Death show you guys did?
Was in '88 in North Belgium in Geel, and it was organized by Wim Bailus, a guy totally well known in the scene, a cult guy, you know? And it was with Agatocles, the grindcore band, most popular grindcore band from Belgium. We were very good friends together. Yeah.
And during that time period, like back then people don't realize, there wasn't so many millions of black metal bands back then. What was Mayhem, Darkthrone, Beherit? I mean, there wasn't like millions like now, right? What was the Belgian scene like in '89, in your opinion? I know there was Acid and Shell Shock and stuff, but what are some of the bands you remember?
Of course, from my region of Charleroi, there is a few bands, but they all remain underground and never did any long player record. We had Winds of Mayhem, which was a pure black metal band in Charleroi at the time, and we were only Morbid Death, you know. Most of the band were from North Belgium, like you say, Acid, Crossfire, Ostrogoth. Ancient Rites started in '89, so they were the first demo, you know. Thunderfire. And of course, Brussels is a good scene too, with Evil Sinner, with Cyclone, with 69. There's more the crossover thrash band, you know. We had a good scene back in the days, but less popular. I don't know why. Probably because we were too much small country. I don't know.
And who's doing the lyrics in Morbid Death? Or is it you guys sharing it, you and Dan?
Lyrics were written by Dan Sergeant. He wrote everything.
And like you said, '90 you leave for school because you got, and you had some stuff to take care of, and you leave Morbid Death for a little period of time.
Then after my departure, they switched to Blasperion, and it was much more death metal with a big growls, you know. And after this, a few years later, we restarted to play the music again together, and it was Enthroned.
So '93, Dan gives you a call, and you guys basically start, doing this together again. But there's a period, 92, what was it, 91, 92, when you're a member of Dying Corpse, which I think changed their name to Godsend.
Exactly. Yeah, while I was working my first job and all, I was missing playing in a band, you know. And I met those guys from Dying Corpse, and I recorded one demo with them. I don't know what the guys became after this, you know. They totally disappeared too.
You guys recorded 3 songs, right? The demo, When Darkness Falls, was '92.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And the lineup was...
It was more death metal, like Suffocation and this kind of stuff, you know.
Definitely. And if the lineup was you on bass, Loron on drums, and Ed on a guitar, Sergey on guitars, and then Sam on vocals.
Exactly. And Serge was the ex-Morbid Death guitarist. He played on the second demo of Morbid Death, Diabolic Force. He's the guitarist of a Diabolic Force demo. That's all.
Are you guys doing shows?
What is?
Are you guys doing shows too? You and
No,
Dying Corpse?
I never did any show with that band. Never.
Okay.
I was more kind of a session member, not really clear, you know. The guys were really weird, you know.
We're going to play a Dying Corpse song here. We're going to play Slowly Decomposed from the '92 demo, When Darkness Falls, and we'll be right back with Sabathan after this track. This is Dying Corpse from the '80 demo. Title of the song is called Slowly Decomposed. We'll be back on the Tampa Morgue after this track. That was Dying Corpse with Slowly Decomposed. December 93, you and Dan start jamming again, as we were saying earlier, and that's the birth of Enthroned.
Exactly. And right after, I think I stayed 1 year playing on, and then we went to holiday, the band, the Serenity, and myself, and then we had a serious discussion while I was on holiday in August '93, and he said to me, Frank, I really miss playing music with you. Remember when we did Morbid? Yeah, I miss those time, man. And why we should not restart something together? He said to me. I say, okay, man, I just asked for it, I'm a bit lost actually because I have no bands anymore, and I really miss to play in a band. So that's all the thing started, And then the time to find a guitarist and all, uh, we started to rehearse in December '93, and we
Is that
started
when
directly.
Vincent?
Yeah, Vincent, yeah. And then, which was a friend that used to go to drink in a bar with him, and he was a real metalhead, yeah. And he's still on the scene now, but he plays pure brutal death now. And that's we asked him if he wanted to join us for have a try. The magic starts directly. We start to compose the first demo. The first song we did we were called "Crucified Towards Hell," and it's all things started.
And who did the logo for you guys, the original Enthroned logo?
So final.
You guys are doing that, and you guys are rehearsing. We're like early days. Where's the band rehearsing at?
We were rehearsing at on the basement of Cernivos mother's house. The same place that we used to rehearse with Morbid Death. Exactly the same rehearsal album.
With Enthroned, is Dan handling the lyrics at first, or are you guys splitting those up, or is he like I know in Morbid Death he was doing all the lyrics. Is that still continuing in Enthroned in the beginning?
No, I used to write all the Enthroned lyrics at the beginning. Absolutely all of them. Dan was more writing for Morbid Death, and I wrote for Enthroned back in the days.
And what's
And
the,
I still
what was
write.
the,
I still write lyrics for Slaughter Messiah in the same way that I used to do with Enthroned.
and what was the first official Enthroned show?
It was with Ancient Rites, of course, because back in the days, in the early '90s, we used to play almost in 80% together in every show. It was really our bandmates, one from the south, Enthroned, one from the north, Ancient Rites. We were always together, and we used to have we even made a split EP together. And our first show was in September '94 with Ancient Rites, Tentacle from Holland, Blood from Germany, and the other bands I don't remember.
Yeah, what were some of the bands you guys were doing shows with, like Black Shepherd and like Avatar and stuff? What were some of the other bands locally that you remember that you guys were actually gigging with at first?
Yeah, we played with Avatar too. Avatar was also on the bill, I remember. But I don't remember if it was on the first gig or the second one. But we used to play also a lot with Avatar. But we never had the chance to play with Black Shepherd, unfortunately, because they had already split up when we started Enthroned.
And the
Because
end of all,
I think Black Shepherd split a few times after the release of Immortal Aggression, which is something I don't understand because this album is so fucking great,
end of August. So end of August '94, Enthroned goes into the studio to record the promo '94 demo,
Yeah.
6 tracks.
Exactly.
What's some of your memories of recording that? And were you guys sending it out to labels and stuff right away? And like obviously your tape trading, which we talked about earlier. But what's your memories first of recording that promo?
We recorded this demo in Oregon recording. which was a very professional and expensive studio in Belgium, because it was the studio of the biggest Belgium metal band of those times, Channel Zero, which used to tour in USA with the Slayer and bands like this and Exorder, you know. And it was their own studio and their own producer at Gillen. We had at the time we had the budget to do it because we saved a lot of money to record this fucking first and from demo, and we decided this time to invest all our money to have a really decent demo, you know. But we wanted to keep this fucking black metal sound too, you know, with a lot of reverb, with the crappy guitar sound, you know. And for Andre Gillen, it was something totally different to record than Channel Zero because Channel Zero was all clear production and all, and we wanted something different, you know. And but the result was really what it was. We were very happy about it. So,
Because
and of
that's
course,
the sound on that
and
promo is actually really good.
yeah, even if we have been obliged to drill a little bit, Andre Gillen, the producer, to have a more crappy sound because we didn't want to have this clear production of Channel Zero. We wanted to have a song more black metal, you know, with chainsaw guitars and chain spikes and ladder, you know what I mean? The typical black metal song, you know. And when we had played the first gig in September '94, all the first pressings of the demo had been sold out on this show. You know, I don't remember exactly how much we had, but we had more than 200 demo tapes, and everything was sold out.
And how long until you hear from what was it, Dark Records? When do you start hearing from that label?
Yeah. The guy who organized our first show in '94 was Eric de Potter, the guy from After Dark Records. And after I've seen our show, he said, "Guys, I want to sign you. I want to sign you. I just released the first Ancient Rites album, Diabolic Serenade, and it's like this our collaboration that started."
And you guys did a split with Ancient Rites, a 7-inch through that. But
Yeah,
did you have trouble with the label on that one though? Like they were taking money or something from the bands?
it's what I heard back in the days. All I can say is the label has been bankrupted after before to we recorded the complete Enthroned album in April '95. Prophecy of Pagan Fire was recorded in '95 in April '95, and while we were in studio recording it, received the call from one of the guys from the label. He announced us that the label was bankrupt, and we were fucked. So everything was almost done. We had just to mix, and that's why he never been released on After Dark Records. But in the meanwhile, Evil Man Records, which was a subdivision of Osmos Production, called us to, "Hi guys, I heard your label is bankrupt. I'm really interested to release your first album." In the meantime, we had directly another label interested, but it took a little bit more time because Prophecies of Pagan Fire was supposed to be released in September, October '95, and finally it has been released in January '96 due to this label change. You know.
And you also put out a 4-way split in '94, right? With Diabolus Rising, Necromancia. How did that whole thing come about?
Yeah, it was a compilation. I think it was most production compilation, but he used to also put on the compilation the bands of the subdivision label like Evil Man Records, you know. And after Dark Records to release before they bankrupt, they released the split EP, Ancient Rites Enthroned, you know. It's a picture disc split EP, you know, with Longing from the Ancient Kingdom from Ancient Rites on one side, and on the other side, Scared by Dark Winds from Enthroned.
'95, you guys also did that, 10 tracks, including an intro, 5 songs from the '94 promo on that one, right? That demo?
Exactly. We have record all the songs of the demo promo on the first album. Yeah.
Artwork was
Because
done by
as we had even more money for the album, We wanted to re-record the song of the demo to have that they have the same approach that that we wanted to have with the album, with the rest of the album.
And during that time period, man, was it like, so was the opportunities different for Belgian bands than they were for, say, the Norwegian bands at that time period? Do you remember?
Yeah. It was way more difficult for Belgian bands. Yeah. Of course, in Norway, everything was already done, And in Belgium, we are, with Ancient Rights, one of the very first black metal bands from Belgium. Both of us were the two first black metal bands from Belgium. Instead, if you take we had also Ritual in the 80s, but Ritual was more hard rock band with satanic lyrics. Ritual was in the early 80s, which was a band from Brussels. Totally something like Black Sabbath with satanic lyrics, but they weren't considered as a black metal band. More like a evil heavy metal band.
Do you remember? So was it Enthroned? Do you remember the first interview you actually ever did? And was it during the Enthroned period? Or did you do one during the Morbid Death period?
You mean the review in the magazine, or?
No, interview. The first time you were interviewed ever in your career, do you
Yeah.
remember?
Oh my God. Yeah, but I did so many interviews back in the days, and with Underground magazine, of course.
Enthroned period was your first one, though?
I think my first interview with Enthroned was in '94. Yeah. In the beginning, right after the demo was released, I think. But I don't remember at all which magazine it was, because we received a lot of interviews back in the days. It was a paper magazine, and everything was written, with a taping machine. We had not computers back in the days, so everything was handwritten.
Prophecies of Pagan Fire, we'll talk about that a little bit. That was produced by Andre Gillinan?
Exactly, the same that from the demo, yeah. The same guy.
And he played keyboards on there too?
Yeah, I used to play keyboard myself on studio, because I had already before the whole idea that I wanted to have, and I played the keyboard on studio. Yeah.
And the acoustic stuff on that record, that was done by a Patrick Rosa, who played with Blaspherion?
Exactly. We invited him as a guest guitarist to make the solo on the album, because we wanted really heavy metal something solo, because as we were all big heavy metal fans, kind of Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, Saxon, because it was our roots, We all started with the heavy metal in the early 80s, Merciful Fate and all. We wanted that kind of evil and melodic solo like Merciful Fate, And Vincent was not able to compose and make this kind of solo. So that's why we invited Patrick Rosa to do it, because he was a very good and skilled guitarist.
And at this time in the band, you're about 25, if I'm doing the math right. And Dan is around probably like 24. I'm not sure of Vincent's age, but what is the chemistry between you guys?
We were just young metalheads, young guys, really crazy. We metal to the bones, big fans of Mallow, wanted to pay homage to our 80s heroes.
Yeah, and you guys, so when you guys put that record out, when it comes out, the Pagan Fire, like, what is the feedback right away? Are you guys starting to get fan mail from around the world at that time period? Do you start noticing the change, like where you guys are starting to catch attention?
Honestly, we were very surprised by the feedback, because we had only good reviews in the magazine. Evil Omen did a great job of promotion with the support of Osmos Production. We had a very good feedback everywhere, even in Norwegian magazine. We had a very good review. We didn't expect that, because in those times, Norway was already worldwide popular for black metal, with bands like Mayhem, Emperor, with Dimmu Borgir, Gehenna, and Gorgoroth, and Enslave. They were really big, already very big comparatively to us. And Norwegian press has been very, very kind with us. That we came from Belgium, a small country that nobody knows about, We've been
You
very
know, and I
yeah.
and I didn't even mention you also played in another band, right? In for a short period of time, and I think you did a '93 a demo titled "Torture and Suffering" from a band called I'm probably going to say the name wrong, but Slanesh.
Spanish, yeah, it was but it was a short experience. It didn't last long, you know. It was the band I had with Vincent, who joined Enthroned in the beginning. But honestly, I've never been happy on the quality of that material. Yeah.
Like, and
It was kind of death metal.
and you guys add a second guitar player, what, 96? You guys decided to add a second guitar player to the band.
Yeah, it was Lord, I guess.
Yep. How did that
Yeah,
where did you first meet him at? And how did that when did you guys decide that you guys wanted to make a second?
he came to every Enthroned gigs. Every time we were playing a live show, he came to see us, and that's how we became friends, you know. And when we did the tour of Prophecies of Pagan Fire, Vincent left the band a few a few days before to start the tour, and we were without guitarist to do that tour, the '96 tour with Ancient Rites, Sacramentum, and Bewitched from Sweden.
That was
And
your first ever tour too.
yeah, it was our first European tour, yeah. And we had man, I said to Dan, man, we have no guitarist for the tour, and we don't want to cancel it. What do we do? And we asked Nord, I guess, if he could do the job. He learned all the song in less than 2 weeks, and then he did the job simply, and that's how he entered the band.
What was it like, that was your first tour bus, right? You go on that 96 tour you mentioned with Bewitched and um you guys are playing what you guys played Black Metal Inferno in the Netherlands and on 96 also.
Yeah.
For you, how was that? Was that like being like you said, you grew up in this kind of music, like from your brother playing in bands your whole life. Like when you first walk on that bus, is that like a mind blower for you? You're like, holy shit, I
But
can't believe that. Like,
but for us, it was a dream becoming reality. You know, simply because it's what we wanted to do since our teenage time. You know, and we had 25, 26 years old at the time, and finally the dream became reality. The tour, touring, playing on the big stage, playing with a real maniacs crowd. You know, finally the dreams come true. It's what I can say. You know, I think for every musician it's the same. You know,
do you remember how many dates you guys did on that first tour?
what please?
How many dates you did on the first tour? Your first tour?
How many days? I think like something like 15 or 14. You know, 2 weeks. It was a 2 weeks tour.
Like you said, Vincent leaves the band. That's when and Dimitri gets involved.
Yeah.
You know,
Sunday.
how so? And obviously, it's part of the storyline and stuff. But like, you and Dan were very close friends and stuff. Like, were you guys? I mean, you've always read through the years. I've read a lot of stuff with you guys, like from back from the Enthroned times and stuff like that. But outside of the band, like, how would you like your friendship? You guys were like best friends.
Yeah. Also, we were always together, even outside of the band. We hang on the bar and every weekend. So we're most of the time together. We were really fucking real brothers.
And obviously, I won't get too much into it because I know it's 97. Obviously, he takes his life and stuff like that. Do you remember the last time you talked to him and like what you're like, how you found out about this?
The last time I talked to him, he just had a car crash. Uh, Sadly, completely lose his mind. I prefer not to talk a lot about this period because it reminds me very bad souvenirs. You know, the last time I talked to him, he had a car crash. He was very desperate because he had no cars anymore. He was drunk, driving drunk, and he crashed his car. And it's just a few days after that he killed himself. It was
Yeah,
really better.
did you feel it? Did you guys? Was there a period of time where you thought the band was done?
Yeah, we had thought about we had thought about to stop the band, but then we decided with Lorne, I guess, to continue in the memory of Dan because it was our duty to do it because it's what he wanted. His wishes was that we continue the band, and that's why we continue. Plus, 97, and when he killed himself, it was 1 week before we entered the studio to record towards the Throne of Satan. So everything was already reserved, and we couldn't move back.
Now, when you look back, I mean, talk about that record. You're talking, like you said, you're about to enter the studio. You guys do Towards the Skull Throne of Satan. That's like 28 years old now. If I'm doing the math right. Does it make,
exactly.
like, you had no idea, right? When you're entering the studio, what piece of history you guys are creating? Because that's a historic record. I mean, when you look back now, you had no idea when you're recording that record, right? When you go into the studio to do this.
Of course. When we recorded Towards the Throne of Satan, first we have composed all the songs with Cerdinos. We have respected all the drum lines we composed. And Dakar Dune from Asphyxia, who used to make the job in the studio with only a rehearsal tape. He have listened the rehearsal tape, and he have played exactly the same drum parts than they've recorded on the rehearsal tape. It's all the album have been recorded. He did an absolutely amazing job, And but we didn't expect it that the band will grow up again, especially after the loss of one of the leaders of the band. And the feedback of Skull Throne have been even way bigger than Prophecy, the Pagan Fire.
Yeah, and you mentioned, like, obviously you had the rehearsal tape when Dan wrote those drum parts on that, and you had D. Cardan come on and do the drums for that.
Dakar Dune, yeah.
And what is
and
the band?
You know that the band of Dakar Dune was called Asphyxia. He was the drummer, and
he was a drum teacher too, wasn't he?
What is?
Was he a drum teacher too? Did he teach music?
Yeah. But the bass player of Asphyxia was Christian, who used to play in Fear Factory. He moved to Los Angeles to play in Fear Factory.
I didn't know that.
Okay. He was the bass player of Asphyxia.
So I did not know that. And what is the band's, like? Are you guys? Obviously, again, you have the recording of this album cannot be easy for you guys. But what are the spirits like in the band yourself? Are you guys driven? Like, are you like you said, you knew that Dan wanted you guys to go on and stuff like that. So are you guys very focused in the studio and everything? And it's basically, do you have like an energy behind you?
Yeah, we felt during the recording studio of the Towards the Throne of Satan, we felt the constant and endless presence of Cerdinos with us. His soul, his spirit was with us. It seems like he was still alive and still with us during the recording, because we had no bad luck at all during this recording, and we felt his presence. He was constantly by our side, and that's what it gave us the punch and the guts to continue the band.
We're going to play a track. We're going to play Evil Church off of that record from the 97 Towards the Skull Throne of Satan. And we'll be back in a couple minutes with you here, man. We're going to play this now. This is Evil Church from Enthroned, from Towards the Skull of Throne of Satan from 1997. We'll be back on the Tampa Morgue after this track. And on that record, I had heard Decardone again. Did he do the album in like one take on the drum?
Yeah, the cartoon.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
heard that when he did the drums, it was like one take almost.
Yeah, exactly. He did everything on one take. This was an incredible drummer. But he couldn't join Enthroned, unfortunately, because we asked him if he wanted to be our drummer, but he refused the offer. So that's why we took back the drummer of Bathory on, Namor Blackthorn, who did an amazing job too for the following record. It's everything that I've done, you know.
And also on that record, you had backup vocals from Pascal Marot, from Beyond, and you also had Cronus on there, Conrad, do vocals on that record.
Conrad Kronos did some backing vocals in the speech of Ertugrul Vault, and he also, you can hear screaming in the intro of the album. This is the voice of Kronos, typical, recognizable for 1,000 millions of other vocals.
Well, he's related to.
I guess Lord, I guess, was related to him.
Okay, so that was the.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
In 97, Fabrice comes back in the band.
Yeah. Then after the recording, we asked Namor Blackthorn to join the band, and he accepted to do directly. And the following stuff will continue. We have decided after to make a tribute to Serdinos EP called Regie Satanas, with 2 songs totally dedicated to him. Die Down Glorious Tales and Warp This Night. And the things that goes on like this, you know. We have continued the band and things were rolling up. Yeah.
You mentioned that tribute. What can you tell us about that track, Words and Tongues? Didn't they take some voice samples from Dan and put it on that track?
Yeah,
on the tribute.
Yeah, I heard about this, but it's not, I guess, who did it. Apparently, for the tape with some the voice of Ferdinand recording on it, and he made a song with it, which is great. He did a very good job for it. He did a very good things making this, you know. It's only one of the things I heard about. You know?
And there was also a Sodom track on that, The Conquer. That was just a song that he always wanted to cover. That's why that got done.
We used to cover Conqueror from Sodom with Morbid Death, and that's why we re-recorded with Enthroned on the Tribute or Serenus EP. You
know? In 98, you guys did a tour with Dark Funeral. Commanders of Chaos, I think it was called.
Exactly. It was our 22 dates. It was our second big European tour in 98.
What do you remember? Like, how crazy is it back then with the touring? Like, you know, that tour with Dark Funeral. Like, what memories do you have from that tour? And how, like, is it? You know, now everybody has cell phones. Could you imagine, like, back then, if everyone recorded all this shit that goes on and stuff? What do you like? What memories do you have from the Dark Funeral tour from '98?
To record, you mean?
Oh no, like, what memories do you have of that tour from with the '98 Dark Funeral?
Yeah, memories. Yeah, it was crazy. You know, it was. We had played in an even bigger venue than on the first tour. Almost all the shows were sold out. It was one of the best experience you can have for a single album tour. You know, everything was amazing. The first band, the opening band was Liar of Golgotha, which was a band from Holland. But a very good band, but they don't exist anymore, actually. And the package was really brilliant. The tour conditions were great. Yeah, you cannot expect better for a second album.
98, you guys put out 2 splits on Blackened Records. Then you guys entered Abyss Studios in Sweden to record a 3rd record, The Apocalypse Manifesto.
Apocalypse Manifesto was our first experience with the brother of Peter Tegren, Tommy Tegren, because Peter was busy working on the new Hypocrisy album, so he could not record us. But we did the album with his brother. But it was our very first experience in the Abyss studio, which was in full winter with 40 degrees under zero in the north of Sweden. We could not expect much cold atmosphere to do an album.
Now, were you happy with this? I remember back in the day, were you happy with the sound of that record when it came out?
Now, honestly, myself, I'm not very happy about the sound of this album. We could have done much better, I think, because it's too much brass beats, you know, and there's lacking of mid tempo and slow songs, you know, because I prefer to have mid tempo songs like we had on Thor on the Sculpture of Satan with some slow part. And the problem of Apocalypse Manifesto is always, you know, kind of machine gun drumming, you know. But at the time, it was what the people wanted to hear, you know. Maybe we have been too much following what the people wanted to hear. I cannot remember very well, but we should do, I think. Now I regret that back in the days we have not composed much more mid-tempo song with slower part like we did on Prophecies and so on and so forth. But no, okay, it has been it's now nowadays that I'm thinking it. Back in the days, I was happy about the matter. I was really happy. Yeah.
And you guys on that one, you guys had Adrian Ware do the cover art, who did work with Girl School and Savage Messiah, for the UK artist. You guys also worked with Tim Turan, who I think he mastered the record.
The guy who made the cover, you mean?
Oh, the guy who made the cover would be Adrian Ware, right? The UK artist.
Yeah.
The guy who mastered the record, that was Tim Turan.
Because honestly, it's Blackened Records who did everything, and they didn't have done a really good job. You know, they fucked up the mastering, I think. Because when you listen the original recording from the Abyss studio, it sounds way powerful and way better than the CD. So I wasn't very happy about the mastering. I speak about myself. For myself personally, I wasn't very happy about the mastering and the mix of this album.
And after that, you know, I had read also that after that Commanders of Chaos tour in '98, that Blackened Records stopped really focusing on the band, which gave you guys a lot of issues with it hurt touring and shit like that for you guys.
So they completely let us down after Apocalypse Manifesto. They didn't make any promotion in any magazine. They didn't make a good job. They completely let us down. That's why we had the chance to have an offer from Napalm Records, which was much better. And that's also why I have to say that our more bestial album has been a bit composed faster, to have been quit with their contract and to have been free to sign another label.
And 2000, Dimitri leaves the band. How does Oliver get involved?
Yeah, exactly. And that's all enter Nera Diamond, the guitarist after Dimitri, the Neberos. Dimitri was Neberos' real name. And then after Nera Diamond entered the band, joined the band, and it was a step over in matter of guitar because he's a very good guitarist.
You guys did a German mini tour, some Euro dates, and then also in 1999, you recorded a demo with a band called Distant Warning.
Yeah, but it was also 99. I don't remember when it was because it was a really bad band that I used to play with them. But I even don't remember when I did that shit. It was it was not in 99. It was later. It was I think it was in 2006 or something like this. But It was so bad that I even don't remember anything from that shit. I'm sorry, man. I'm really sorry.
No, it's no problem, man. Sorry for bringing that one
It's
up,
some,
actually.
it's some mistake I did in my musical path,
So 2000, you guys put out another promo demo, another split, 6-band split. And are you starting to work on the material already for the B Style Hell record right after the Manifesto record?
So, after Apocalypse Manifesto, we started to work directly on our more BCL songs because we wanted to be as soon as possible rid of Blackened Records because we weren't happy about them. And plus, we had the offer of Napalm Records, which was way thousand times much better. So that's why to be rid of the contract, that's why this album is a bit messy, if I can say like this.
And you guys go into when you guys are doing the B Style Hell record, you guys did that in Germany? You recorded that?
In Gelsenkirchen, yeah, in the city of Tom and Jerry Ripper from Sodom. And it was the studio. I don't remember the name of the studio, but it was a very professional studio when bands like Scanner, Rage used to record. So but the production is not very good. For me, the next biggest album of Enthroned is Carnage and Words Beyond that we have done with Aris Jones, famous producer from Germany, producer of Sodom, Voivod, Angel Death, First Immolation, Pestilence, Consuming Impulse. These guys did very fucking pieces of art for metal. And he did a very good job. He did a very good job. And this was our very first Napalm Records recording.
And that was the closest, right? Like you said, that was the closest you guys were to Pagan Fire and Skull Throne. You felt on that one. The Herecticum album.
Exactly. Yeah. We with the Carnage and Words Beyond, we were really back to the toward the Sculpture of Satan's vibe, totally. And it's what we wanted back in the day. And we had also another drummer who joined the band at the time, which was Alsvit, the drummer of Seth, the French band, which is a brilliant drummer, a fucking beast, man. One of the best drummer I ever heard.
Yeah, why did Black Throne leave the band during that time period? Because that's like 2000, right? You guys are having like label issues at that time period, I believe, and like inner issues and stuff. Why did he take off?
Yeah. He was out of the band in 2000, I think. In the year 2000, 25 years ago. And and after this, he completely disappeared. He stopped playing music, and he wasn't interested by the metal scene anymore.
You did? I will say on that 2000 record, though, you worked with Rock from Sadistic Execution on the artwork.
Yeah, we used to know him since the tour they did in Europe in '95. They did the tour Sadistic Execution, Absu, and Impaled Nazarene in '95. And it's there that we have start connection with Rock and the rest of the band. Sadistic Execution is a fucking killer and fucking cult, man.
Oh yeah, definitely.
This is the way
he did the logo for the Slayer magazine too, man.
Yeah. Exactly. This is a typical band, Sadistic Execution, a typical example to be rock and roll. This is the real deal, the fucking real deal. And we had a chance to see them live 3-4 times here in Europe in '95 because they only did one tour in Europe in '95 with Absu and Impaled Nazarene. It was a tour, Sex, Cyber, and Rock and Roll tour. And the guys were really fucking kicking ass on stage. If you had in USA had the chance to have seen G.G. Allen live on stage, then we had the chance to see Sadistic Execution, which was approximately the same kind of craziness. And it's the way to be, the way I love it.
I got some G.G. Allen stories for you, let me tell you.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about the USA thing, which you mentioned. 2001, you guys put out the B Style Hell, and you guys, obviously, August 2021, your first USA tour. But when you see 9/11, are you just like, fuck, like you already know probably that there's issues going on in the States, right? Like when this happens.
We heard about the 11 September attack, and we had already the plane tickets for the tour, and everything was already done and set it up, and we were in contact with the organizer and with our manager back in the days. What do we do? And, the tour is not canceled. The guy doesn't want to cancel the tour. But are you sure that the tour will work? Let's see. We will go anyway. And I heard at the time many bands canceled their tour. And big bands like Slayer and all, they canceled the European tour at the time due to the terrorist attack. And us, Enthroned, we had the guts to go in the USA to tour. But unfortunately, the tour wasn't successful at all.
I heard you guys only had like what, two good New York and Texas was the only decent shows you guys had on that tour?
Yeah, we had the New York show. It was very great in L'Amour, in the venue L'Amour. And Texas was good too, if I remember well. It was the only place that the venue were crowded. Yeah.
How was the airport security?
Honestly, it was less strict than nowadays. It was really much easier back in the days to go to USA to tour than nowadays. It was way more strict when we went for a battle threat 2 years ago. Way more strict, because
that's the only two times you've been in the States, right, to play. Was that Metal Threat in 2023 and that 2001 USA tour?
Yeah, exactly. The only two times I went to USA to play. Yeah. But when we went to USA to play in 2001 after the terrorist attack, we had the bullet belts, we had the spikes, we had everything with us, and we had no problems at the border. But here, when we came for Metal Threat, we even not have our instruments, because otherwise we should be probably sent back to Europe.
I heard the promoter was actually it was like a nightmare dealing with the promoter that you guys were dealing with on that 2001 tour.
Yeah, the organizer of the tour, you mean?
Yep.
Yeah, it was totally bullshit. The guy, you know that the guy have never paid the plane ticket. When we arrived in the USA, we have been called by the customs service. You guys are traveling without any plane tickets. To say no, you could enter in the plane in Belgium. So I suppose everything. No, you guys are wrong. And we started to have really serious problems there. And honestly, the tour manager was saved the situation very good for us. Yeah. And when we were about to be back in Belgium, no plane tickets, And the guy left us abandoned on a hotel in a very dark place in Los Angeles. Luckily, again, the tour manager and our manager back in the days who solved all the situation. And we could be back in Belgium safely.
Yes, and you mentioned Napalm, obviously 2002, you guys hook up with Napalm, because back then, what is it? The big labels are Nuclear Blast, probably Century Media, maybe Metal Blade. That's the ones that are out there. Then you guys hook up with Napalm to do the Carnage and Worlds Beyond. You guys recorded that at the Spider House Studios?
With Harris Jones?
Yep.
We wanted to have Harris Jones as producer because we were a big fan of many albums that he produced, like Solon, like Voivod,
Celtic Frost,
like Angel Dust first album.
Sepultura he worked with, I believe.
Yeah, but on the Third World Pussy live album, and he did so many killer records, First Immolation, Down Possession, and Consuming Impulse from Pestilence, and but mostly the 80s stuff he did. Like the first Halloween, Walls of Jericho, we were totally big fans of those albums, and we wanted to do something really back to the roots, like Toward the Sculpture of Satan, Prophecy, The Pagan Fire, with the production we used to love to,
And you guys do obviously you guys do the new. You have I think the last 7-inch that Fabrice did, what you guys was Goat Lust. Then you guys did you added another drummer, guitar player. In 2004, and then you guys did a 2000. Was it your first time in South America? Because you guys did a 2003 South American tour.
In 2004, it was our very first South American tour. It was the first time there, but it was for Carnage in West Beyond, but the x-Horacle was already recorded. So yeah, it was also another step forward to go there to tour, and that was very successful tour. We used to play in big venue. We were a diner and a venue of 1,000 people. You know, it was totally crazy because we never seen that somewhere else. You know.
We mentioned those member changes too, but you guys had made an agreement, right, with Oliver and Alcivid that they were going to actually complete the record before they left the band that time period.
Yeah, I don't remember very well it happened, but we had signed with a Napalm Record for 3 albums. We recorded a live album. We recorded a live album on the tour in South America. We record on Porto Alegre, and with a mobile studio who was there, set it up for us, and it was our first official live album that we did there, and it marks a little bit my epitaph in the band. You know, of course, after the x-Horacle have been recorded before the South American tour. The live album has been recorded on the tour himself, and but I left the band 2 years after. So the rupture
Now,
with me and the rest of the band was done 2 years later.
yeah, like I said, we don't on this show. You don't have to answer whatever you don't want to. You can answer whatever you want to. But I remember back in the day, I had heard a comment that you'd made back. I mean, it must have been like 20 years ago, maybe 10 years ago. But you had said that you had asked the band to give you needed some time to take care of some shit, and it didn't. And they didn't respect that, and that's kind of there was other things, but that's basically what ultimately led you to leaving the band. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly correct. You know that it was the year my brother died. It was the year I had many personal problems in my life, and I asked it to make a break and of 1 or 2 years just to rebuild myself. It's all the things. It's exactly what's happened.
And when you left the band, did you feel a little I mean, obviously, you have a whole bunch of shit going on in your personal life, which overrides a lot of the stuff, but when you left, was it hard for you to leave? Did you feel like you were losing a piece of you?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I was like feeling a piece of myself. It's true. Yeah. Yeah. It was really hard times for me. Really, really bad and hard times. You know.
You also weren't go much for the direction, right? You didn't like and I don't know if I'm wording this correct, so you can tell me if I'm wrong, but you didn't like the direction that the style was heading? 'Cause you're not a
Exactly. Yeah.
big Norwegian. Yeah.
No, no, no. Exactly that. I didn't like the new direction of the black metal scene at the time because they were all orthodox shit and all, and it was not rock and roll at all anymore. I couldn't recognize myself inside that kind of music, that kind of shit, you know, using a kind of masquerade on stage, and never been my kind of stuff, you know. For me, black metal, it's spikes, ladder, chains, rock and roll, violence, fist in your face, blood. This is black metal, but not that kind of bullshit, you know, with the orthodox. And it was totally not what I wanted to do, you know. So,
Yeah. Like you said, you guys did do they did the live album from South America, the Black Goat Ritual, which was Brazil. You guys did that, and then you leave the band, and but there was material for a seventh full length with you that was going to be in the vein of Skull Throne.
at the time, I had some material that I've written, yes, in the famous Cult Throne, but I could never propose it to the band because they didn't want to listen what I proposed. They wanted to change in style, you know. Honestly, when you listen the album of Enthroned after my departure, it's very different than what we did before, you know. But it's the way they choose, you know, and I respect it, you know. Actually, I do. I have. I went my own way, you know, with Slaughter Messiah, and it's all I wanted, you know. It's all I
Do
wanted.
you have any communication now with Norgest at all, or
Yeah,
you kind of?
Since he moved to Norway, not so much, but sometimes when we talk together, when we meet each other, yes, of course, everything is very fine. Yeah, we're not in this. We're not in this arguing mood that we had before. You know, everything everything is back to normal now. We're back like we were in the same relationship that we had in the band. You know. Yeah.
Oracle. You formed this in 2007.
Yeah.
Did vocals and
Yeah.
bass. You guys put out a self-titled EP in 2011. Then you guys put out another EP
Yeah.
in 2013, and then 2015 you guys put out Dead Eyes Revelation.
Yeah, exactly. I wanted to. I always. My dream was always to have a side project of heavy metal, and it's what I did with Oracle. We recorded 2 EP and 1 album. Then the band split up because the guys were not motivated anymore. Too, they were very good musicians, but they also all quit the metal scene. You know, that's the problem. Except the singer, which is from France. He play in a band called Crystal Throne in France, which is kind of a Queensryche Operation Mindcrime stuff, you know. Yeah, the same voice than Geoff Tate, exactly the same voice. And Oracle was my parallel, but my side project of them now. But unfortunately, it has stopped in 2018 because for a lack of motivation from the rest of the lineup. Same shit that we have mostly with people here, sadly.
Well, I'm going to play a track from that. I'm going to play the Gallows Tale from on the 2013 record, right? That came out on Dying Victims Productions, and the name of that was A Wicked Procession. We'll be right back with Sabathan after this track. This is Horacle with the Gallows Tale. See you back on the Tampa Morgue.
Surrounded by the forest, everywhere around the mist is shadowing its presence. Inhabitants and wanderers knew the tales of 16 men. Their souls coming back to wander, spirits of the living. Did you let us die? Can you sleep at night? Everyone's in town, the pages tell the same old story. A 16 foreign sailor turns the keys of rape and murder. Judges of the seat of death pronounce the wicked sentence. The gallows placed in high place and welcomes the blood of poor men's bodies. It wasn't all our hands. Judges want to hear a claim. Our sentence will be your own nightmare. Damn you, we will take our revenge. By virtue of the terrorist decision and the power vested in me by thy kingdom, I hereby sentence you to
2008, you were in a band called Dawn of Crucifixion.
Dawn of Crucifixion is the band I had right after my departure of Enthroned, you know. And it was the band split up quite fastly because they formed Possession after Dawn of Crucifixion, and I used to join Slower Messiah in the meanwhile. So I joined Slower Messiah in January 2011, and Dawn of Crucifixion they split up around the time too. You know, they just recorded a demo. We did a demo tape, only one demo. And we did a cover of DGL in By the Dioscum.
Did you guys do shows with that band?
Yeah, a few ones, but not a lot. Maybe I do a couple of shows, but not so much.
And you mentioned that being your first band since Enthroned. So Hail Judas was the first song you wrote since you left Enthroned at that time period?
Exactly. I didn't write the song, but I play bass guitar lines on it. Yeah. It was my coming back band. It was in the meantime than Oracle, so it was during the same period from 2010 to Dawn of Crucifixion. I joined the band in 2009. Sorry, in 2009, and I left in 2010 at the end because I joined Slower Messiah right after.
Yeah, because you guys did only a demo. You guys did a demo in
Yeah.
2000, a split in the demo, right, during your time period with the
All
band.
right, yeah.
The Slaughter Messiah.
Then the adventure of Slower Messiah begins. Yeah.
So Slaughter Messiah originally formed in 2008, right? But you come in there 2011.
Right, exactly. Because when they asked me to join the band, they were more a thrash metal band, you know. And then when I arrived in the band, I said, guys, okay, I love thrash metal, but I want to do evil thrash metal. I don't want to do those crossover lyrics and all shit, you know. I'm more into satanic metal, so let's darkify that stuff, and it's all things started. The really serious thing started in Slower Messiah when I joined the band in 2011.
What was your first show with the band?
In 2011, Belgium in a small club. I think it was in October 2011, yeah. And I joined the band in January. Yeah. I don't know, the show was very crowded, you know. The show was well crowded, you know.
And the first thing you did with them was the demo in 2011, right? The 5-track?
Exactly. Yeah. I did.
You guys are rehearsing in the old Enthroned room?
We used to rehearse. No, when we started Slower Messiah, we used to rehearse at the drummers, the ex-drummer, the drummer before John Barry, the ex-drummer place. You know, it's there that we started to rehearse. You know, and sometimes we came to rehearse at my place, which was the after Serenados rehearsal room.
And you guys are playing Skullfest 3. You guys are doing shows with Volcano, Attic, Gospel of Horns, Nunslaughter, tours, Belgium, exactly. Ireland.
Exactly. We were very lucky because when we started to play live, it was already with big bands and very popular bands and cult bands on the studio. We had that luck for sure. Yeah.
You guys put out 3 EPs: Black Speed Terror on Demon Hood Productions in 2013, and then Putrid Invocation, an EP in 2014, and then Morbid Reincantations EP in 2016 on Gold Cult Symphonies out of Germany. And then, so Elliot, he leaves the band, right around, was it 2015?
Exactly. And he leaves the band in 2014 at the end. And it's all John Barry entering the band because he came always with us as a roadie, as a driver, you know. And
how you got him to do this? I mean, he told us this on the show when he was on here, which goes back. It all has a Bathory background, doesn't it? At the end of the day, Dying Fire. You basically you're playing a show in Germany. John gets involved. He doesn't realize it though at first.
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly like this. It happens. Yeah. And he came to drive us. He was a driver he drove us to the show. Yeah. And we felt that it was the last show with Elliot because he became totally crazy. I think took too much drugs, something like this, and he gave himself the drumstick to John Barry and say, "Man, play the Bathory cover at my place." And John did an amazing job, absolutely killer job. And right after this, we asked John, "Do you want to be our new drummer?" And yeah, of course, yes. And it's all the things. It's like that the thing started exactly like he explained to you.
Yeah, we had John on the show, episode 87. He was awesome. It was definitely a great hang. And then you guys with John, his first recording, you guys was Morbid Reincantations in 2016. I talked to him about that because those songs dated back to 2011, right? And he was telling us, if I remember correctly, he was telling me you guys recorded it and lost most of the shit on that and had to redo it.
Because we were not happy about the result. You know, we were not happy about the production of the result, so that's why we have decided to record those songs on the last EP here on the Exorcise to Dawn that we have recorded in 2023 because we weren't happy about the production of and about the recording either. Honestly, when we have recorded Morbid Reincantation, we were totally drunk.
Yeah, that's what he was saying, I believe. Yes.
Exactly, and it's like this that we have decided. Oh my God, what we have done. My God, we can't. So we have decided no, let's record it again. But it's a rock and roll way to be. That's I like it.
And you knew John. Is it true you knew John since like 99?
Yeah, I know John for a long time. Yeah. Because John used to come to every Enthroned show in Belgium back in the days in the 90s. So it's a long time brother, a really long time. Yeah.
And also 2018, the band Heinous is formed with members of Possession, Percolator. What is the lineup at this when you guys first start the band? Which I think original lineup is 2018.
But honestly, Heinous started like this. Rod, our guitarist in Slower Messiah, have always been a big black metal fan. One of his first band he used to listen was Enthroned. And for him, it was a kind of honor to have me in his band, Slaughter Messiah, because it's Rod and Elliot who formed Slaughter Messiah. And then he said, "Oh my God, I'm a bit embarrassed because I have songs which can't enter into Slaughter Messiah because they sound too black metal. And I would like to exploit those songs. That's what so I'm thinking about to do a side project, black metal. Would you be agree to join the band?" And I say, "Why not? Of course, yes, man. I play with you in Slaughter Messiah, and we are kind of real friends and real mates for music. So of course, and it's like this. It started. We started to record the song. We could not enter in Slaughter Messiah world because it's too black metal. And Slaughter Messiah is more thrashing black metal, Heinous is more like Hulk Mayhem and all shit, That's all the thing started. And plus, he said, "I would like also to make a project with my old friend from my childhood, Panzer, the singer, And it's like this. The thing started simply.
And it's still the same lineup today, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Possession drummer, Sabathan is guitarist, ex-Slaughter Messiah, exhumator. Rod, Iron Bitch, the actual and main guy from Slaughter Messiah. Myself on bass guitar. And that's all. We are four pieces.
You guys hooked up with medieval prophecy records, right? You guys did a demo and in 2019.
The same label released the Enthroned demo on vinyl 2 years ago. Yeah.
And the first Heinous show, is that Forest Fest in Switzerland?
In 2019, yeah. And now we are working on new material and with Slaughter Messiah as well. Things goes on. Yeah.
So Heinous
Yeah.
did 2 comps, one in 2020 titled Gospel of Insanity, tracks from the first demo and EP, and then
And then came the album. Yeah. Ritual, Blood, and Mysterious Dawn.
the 8 tracks on that one.
Yeah, on the Nuclear War No for USA, and on the New Era Production for Europe.
You guys play what? You guys actually play next week with Arco, Purgatory, and is that next week you guys are playing?
Yeah. We play Hole in the Sun Festival here in a few days in Germany with Argo. The lineup is incredible. The pure evil black metal lineup. It's something incredible.
Goat Torments on that, I think. Deathless Void.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Absolutely genius and outstanding lineup.
So what's the next week? So we're actually going to play Ritual Blood and Mysterious Dawn in here in a second. But what is what's the current status of the band? You guys recording a new record? Because that one came out, and the one we're going to play is from 2022.
Now we have the recording of this album has been very made in an underground way. You know, we have all recorded home studio, and the vocals have been recorded in the ruins of a castle. So that's why we have catch the whole atmosphere, and it sounds very dark and evil and cold, you know, the way we want it to be. Yeah, live we play the complete album live. We play the whole LP.
Well, I'm going to play Heinous, Ritual Blood, and Mysterious Dawn from 2022, and we'll be back right after this track on the Tampa Morgue. This is Heinous.
Survival.
and that was Heinous with Ritual of Blood and Mysterious Dawn. And then obviously Slaughter Messiah records the band's first full length, Curse to the Pyre, 8 tracks, Art Again by Rock, and High Roller Records, which I think is a great label. We have many of the bands come through here on this show. And yeah, how do you get involved with High Roller, and how's it been? Because I know you guys were, I believe you were also offered a deal from Osmos at this time period, but
Yeah, we had a deal for most for the single album, but for the first album, Curse to the Fire, when we went on tour with Vomitor, the Australian band, which fits totally with us. We are the same kind of dudes, totally rocking and crazy. On the tour, we had this date in Crypt in Germany, which was a very big audience, crowded. Vomitor, Slaughter Messiah, Nocturnal Witch. Then the guy of High Roller was to the show, and after he had seen our show, we recorded the live there. We recorded the live album there, but it's totally sold out now.
Donoram, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, it has been released on CD and on tape, and it's totally sold out. And we have recorded that show there in Crypt on the tour with Bobby Thor in 2019. And after the show, the guy of High Roller Record, who was there in the audience, came to us and said to us, "Hey guys, I have to talk to you. Have you a label for?" I say, "No, we have no. We just recorded our first album, but we're looking for a label to release it." I say, "I am very interested. I'm very interested." And it's all we enter in contact with. It's all we enter in contact with High Roller Record.
Yeah, they're a good label too. Like I said, they have
Yeah,
deals with
absolutely.
other bands. Great
All,
product,
all,
great looking stuff.
all the re-release they do, they are even better than the originals. When you see, for example, the Voivod Killing Technology re-release, the Angel Dust Into the Dark Past re-release, the Complete Manual Road discography re-release by High Roller Record, they are even way better than the originals. Way much better. Same goes for Reading Death, for Hexzimmer. Everything they do is fucking brilliant.
When you guys recorded Curse to the Pyre, at first, did High Roller want you to work with Patrick Engel on that record?
Yeah, but he was really expensive. That's why we did the mastering by Chris Murphy.
Yeah, from Destroyer 666 and Gospel.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because I used to know rock for since the Enthroned times, and I wanted to have him absolutely for cover again because I really love what he's doing. I really love his art,
That 2019 I was telling you earlier. That's the first time I saw you guys over here in Lithuania. You guys played at a club called Lemmy's.
Yeah, exactly. I remember that show.
Yeah, the whole Jack Daniels. You guys did Bomber from Motorhead that night.
Exactly. There's still some video on YouTube for it. You know that when we played there, we were still in the recording session of Curse to the Pyre. We had still not finished the recording. We have finished the recording in the end of February, but we were in a mixing fast. We had finished the recording, but we were mixing the album. Sorry, I'm wrong. Because it was in February. It was in February, not in January, if I remember well. When we played in Lemmy's Club, it was February 2019.
Yeah, we were actually talking about it. I had Darius, if you remember from Luctus and them, was over here the other night at my house. Actually, we were, he actually owned the club at that time. One of the owners. He was the one pouring. If you look on the video on YouTube, he's the one with the bottle. And we were talking about that.
We'll come on stage and make us drink.
Yeah. He was over here the other night. We were talking about that.
Send him my greetings. Yeah, great guy.
The Luctus is doing good, man. Killer band too. And I swear. John was telling us, I believe, on the show when we had him on, that you guys recorded a version of Holy Terror. Was it Black Plague? I don't know if it was that one or not. I know you guys played that live. And you never released it.
No, because it was supposed to appear on the Holy Terror tribute, but it never been released. It's never been done. And but we had still this song recorded, and we are waiting that someone proposed to release it. We have still, of course, the recorded song. It was done during the same session than Curse of the Fire, and, but we're still waiting someone release it one day.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. 'Cause I
Maybe
remember you mentioned that.
I expect one day there will be a Holy Terror tribute that will ask for the song.
And then 2017, you also bring back, obviously you pay homage to your time in Enthroned, with your self-titled band now, which we talked about. You
Exactly.
played with Metal Threat also in 2023 with this,
Yeah,
and it was recommended from a friend to start this.
exactly. There was one of my best friends from France who told me, Frank, you should play again the old and fun song, do a project doing it because so many people ask for it. I say, yeah, but I'm going to deal with it with the other guys of Enthroned. They will probably not agree that I do it. After many discussion and many things, I said. I can explain it after many discussions with all the guests and all. We finally found an accord that I could do it, and it's all I started to do it with x-Enthroned members, with the guitarist Gorat from Edinburgh, who used to play in Enthroned from from 2004 to 2007, with x-Enthroned drummer. Uh, Afaim, who used to be Enthroned drummer from 2006 to 2008 or 2009, and of course with Exubator, who used to play with me, Soter Messiah, and play with me in Heinous.
You do that, and also, obviously 2021, you put out the Putrid Decade of Morbid Terror comp, which has you have a bunch of demos on there, tracks from the 2011 Deathlike Invasion demo, unreleased tracks,
Yeah,
Black Speed Terror EP, then Putrid Invocation EP. You do that, and then also you guys put obviously the Reincantations from 2016 on there. And then 2024, you guys put out the last thing you physically released, which was the Exercise to None on High Roller
yeah,
Records, which
yeah,
is
yeah,
3 studios, 3 live, from Austria, Poland, and Germany. So it was recorded in 3 days?
yeah, exactly. In one weekend, we have recorded in one weekend.
And recorded it in rehearsal room, right? That you got, is
Yeah,
that
yeah,
Dragon Blaze Studios?
yeah, exactly where we have recorded Curse to the Fire. This is our rehearsal room, which is fully equipped from studio backline and Bathory.
You guys, at that same time period, you guys are playing with Impaled Nazarene in Hungary. You guys also had, we were talking with John about this, I believe, you had a Latin American tour canceled 3 times?
Yeah, yeah. It seems that it's very hard nowadays to deal with South American promoters. 3 times it has been. First time he said it's because of the COVID. Second time it's because there was a kind of strike with the hair company. And now it's another excuse like, oh, it's been ripped off by my travel agency. Man, stop it. No way. Stop your bullshit. Stop your joke. Simply, you have not the money to pay the plane tickets. Oh, that's what
Yeah,
I
do you
think.
deal with that? Yeah, it's gotta be like, for you, I mean, you've been around for a long time, obviously, you've seen all different changes. Everything's changed so much in the last bunch of years. Is it hard for you now to trust promoters, or, like, do you count on anything, or not until you have those tickets in your hand?
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes I'm totally lost about all those changes on the scene. And if I can give you a feedback about it, of course I miss the good old times.
So, and let's talk about, so I know that John, when we had him on here, he was saying that you guys are working on the new record for Slaughter Messiah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, so give us the latest, because obviously at that time, I know you guys were actually working the songs in the studio, I believe, at the rehearsals, kind of going through them and seeing what you had. Do you guys have a certain amount of songs written for the next record, and do you kind of have an idea when it's going to be recorded and all that?
Yeah. Well, no, we own the right material for it. We have all the songs completely composed. Maybe just missing one song is finished, and we're still working on it. But we want to do the best. That's why we take our time. We don't want to do it in a hurry, like we did with Enthroned for our more bestial hell, for example. So we don't want to do the same mistake anymore, and we take all our time to work every song step by step and to build every song step by step.
You guys pretty much have like, you kind of know what the direction you're going to go now. You guys have the songs and you can,
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
so probably no, I'm saying we probably won't see it till like 2026 most likely, right?
Yeah, it should be ready for 2026 for sure. Yeah.
And so you guys have now coming up now, we're obviously halfway through 2025. I know we mentioned a couple shows that are coming up earlier, like you guys are going to be playing The Hole in the
Yeah,
Sun. Yeah,
that,
what's some
that,
stuff you guys have planned for the rest of your summer?
that's also why we are a bit late on the album because we always demanded for shows. When we still have to play Alcatraz Festival in Belgium, we still have to play Trash Nightmare in Czech Republic, uh, Battle Threat in Chicago, and then after this, I think we are done and we can finally finish the album. Well, after those three shows we still have to play, we can finally focus on giving a hand to the album, finishing it, record it. We will probably record it in the beginning of the next year.
And there's a couple things I have to ask you because people ask me to ask you, some of our listeners. First of all, what's the gear you're playing now? Like, what's your gear of choice?
Yes, I mean about Soul Messiah.
Like, yeah, like what's like bass and stuff. What is the gear you're using these days?
Oh, the gear. Okay, yeah, the gear I used is Marshall cabinets from the 70s. I have almost the same gear than Geddy Lee from Rush back in the 70s. Marshall cabinets, Rickenbacker. But I also play on a BC Rich Mockingbird. Both I alternate both Rickenbacker, BC Rich, top at 4 volts, Marshall from 75, old school gear.
I really appreciate you coming on the show tonight, man. We wanted to ask you for a while about coming on here. You're glad, we hit you up and you agreed to come on, man. I mean, and I have to ask too, like, you've obviously, I have to say this too, as a fan of yours, your voice, when you hear your voice, it's you, man. That's always, yeah, we brought that up on the show before. There's certain guys, when you hear them, who it is. Um, you're one of those guys. How would you like to be remembered, man? If you had to say, like, when it's all said and done, because you've been doing this for a while now, like, how do you want your fans to remember you?
I ask them is to remember me for all what I did during those years, because it's almost 40 years that I play music. Even if I play in a lot of bands, in a lot of different bands, in a lot of different style of music, my mentality and my soul remains the same. Pure metal to the bones, evil metal, and I will never change. It's in my blood, it's in my flesh, it's in my bones for the rest of my life, and I will die metal. I'm born metal, and I will die metal.
No, we really appreciate you coming on here and hanging out with us, man. And kind of like the last song I chose to play tonight on your way out is actually because I know Bathory is a big thing in your background and your history and stuff
Exactly,
like that.
yeah.
And I thought of like what song to end the show with you, and I said, well, probably, Die in Fire, which got Ja on the Job, Barry on there too. I mean, so we're gonna play this on the way out, man. And again, dude, thank you for letting us take so much of your time too.
You're welcome, man. It was a real pleasure.
Thanks a lot, dude.
And I hope to be back in USA. Of course, Metal Threat, but I hope also to be back on tour there when it will be possible.
Definitely, yeah. Who knows who knows what the hell's going on anymore in this crazy fucking world? But
yeah. Let's
you can only hope the best.
Let's hope it will be better times in the future. That then we can make a complete US tour with Soul Messiah.
Definitely, man. And
Yeah.
you know, anything else you want to say on your way out? And anybody who wants to find any, I know we were talking before you came on. You're not a big technology guy and stuff like that, but where would you send fans who want to find, you know, t-shirts and all that stuff? You know, anything Slaughter Messiah related,
Yeah.
or Heinous related, or any of your projects that you want to mention related.
Hey, this is the same. We are working also on the second album. So we will release an EP before. We would like to do an EP again, 7-inch, and then after we will do the album. Because we hope sometime to propose the shortest material like an EP, a tape, or something like that. Keeping the spirit of the underground alive. You know?
Definitely. And
Yeah.
yeah, so we're gonna say goodbye to you in a minute, man. Anything you want to say on your any last words?
I would like to thank all the USA maniacs who love us and who support us. And I would like to say to them that we really cross our fingers that one day we can come on tour. A complete world tour in the USA would be so great for us. And we hope to meet you one day, guys, on stage, on a venue, or somewhere else, on a parking lot, on a bar. Of course, meet you all guys in NATO Threat in September. Keep the black flame burning. Keep the crosses upside down. Keep ladder, chains, spikes, and metal forever. 666.
Hey, man, we appreciate you. And we're going to say goodbye to you. We're going to play Slaughter Messiah, Die in Fire, and, you know, off the Morbid Reincantations EP from 2016. And again, man, Frank, we appreciate you.
Thank you very much, Tony. It was such a pleasure. We just expect to can tour there one day, honestly. Yeah.
Oh,
it's all right.
yeah.
See you guys on stage. See you guys live. I promise you we will come. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
There you go. This is Slaughter Messiah with Die in Fire. Me and Ed will be back after this track. This is from Morbid Reincantations from the EP from 2016. And we'll be back on the Tampa Morgue after this track.
Rise to find your flesh and bones. Each time you realize you'll never
And that was Slaughter Messiah with Die and Fire, the Bathory cover from the Morbid Reincantations album that came out on Goat Coal Symphonies 2016. And Ed, I have to say, man, I've always been, he has a voice, it's Sabathan when you hear him singing. So many killer bands, and like I said, he was nothing but humble and awesome. Hung out with us, and I just, again, appreciate him giving us his time, man.
You were definitely for probably maybe even before we got John Barry on. You wanted
I'm telling
him.
you that I wanted to ask him to come on.
Yeah.
I just wanted to kind of wait until we've been trying to get the show where we wanted it to be, and I definitely wanted to ask him. And what was so great about Sabathan is that, like, I'm telling you, like, I asked him to do it, and it took like 2 minutes for him to be like, "Sure, no problem." And that's what you like, man, because we talk about this off the record, me and you. There's a lot of the bands, which I'm sure we're going to mention again in the future. A lot of the bands that we grew up listening to, they were underground bands. They supported the underground. They waved the underground flag, however you want to put it. Now, some of those bands, they're only on shit like Loudwire or fucking. They look at stats to go on shows. Some shows that don't even give them
Like
justice.
the Garza podcast.
Yeah,
because
nothing against Garza, but they'll go.
No. He's a bigger dude.
Yeah.
He's in Suicide Silence. I mean, he's a big dude.
Yeah.
He's well known. I mean, we're in a different league, even though whatever bands I've done in the past, I'm a schmuck. It's just, and plus we don't have a studio where we're sitting there and people get to come in when they're on tour because they're rolling through his town. So, getting Chris Barnes on, you know what I mean? That's a tough sled.
Well, like we were saying, I mean, off the record, we were saying, like, like back in the day, if you went to a Slayer show and said, "Hey, Carrie, can we get you on our interview for a couple minutes?" You're going to get a yes. These days, many years later, you got to jump through some hoops and hope that you have stats and this and that. But, we've been lucky. I mean, like I said, the most of the guests we've had on, we have totally went out and got ourselves. We have guests that we wanted on, guests that we appreciate their music, not just like the flavor of the week that's coming through releasing records. So,
well, we're not just pulling whatever's popular this week.
Yeah.
But the thing is like, you've seen the bands live or somebody mentioned them to you and you listen, you're like, fuck yeah, let's get them on, man.
Yeah.
It's not about a popularity contest. We're just putting people on that seem to have a decent history and
they're killer bands. Like, you're mentioning, like, you think about it, like, you can turn on, say an album comes out, we'll just say whoever, like, we'll say Danzig because he's not coming on our show. So you got him, right? He puts out a new album. Well, you can get 55 interviews of him on YouTube, like, for that record in like a couple days when the promo starts. For us, we try to find bands that we think are killer that people may not know about, or they may know about. Someone like Sabathan, he's a legend. Like, to me, like, getting him on was like, is one of those, you have a checklist. Like we always say, we have like guys that we got Ryford on from Autopsy. That was someone that we always wanted to get on our show. We had Snowy Shaw was one of those guys, Jeff Mantis, which was incredible to have him on the show for 5 hours. King Fowley from Deceased. Like, these are guys that we wanted, and Sabathan falls in that rank. And
well, it's funny to me too, because the last 3 people we've had on, I've played shows recently with them.
You didn't even know him,
and I didn't even realize it, man.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah, you played with Hexea. You played with like a Morgul. You played with. Morgul's a killer.
Two of them were at the Chicago one that we were literally added last minute. So it's just crazy.
It's how it works, But and Ed, unfortunately, I'm gonna have to get out of here tonight kind of early because I got responsibilities outside of the morgue, but we have a lot of morgue coming up. Like I said, I'm going to kind of be on, I don't even know if it's going to be, actually, to be honest with everybody, I don't know if it's going to be a vacation in the next 2 weeks because I got some family coming in, but there's already stuff going on in the background where we may have to record some special interviews that we may get, which would be awesome. But you guys will not miss out because we have episodes next 2 weeks that you haven't heard before. We do have, like I said, Adam Scott from Cardiac Arrest is coming on next week. And then we're going to have the guys from Luciferian Rights from Mexico on the week after that. And then we'll be back with episode number 100 at that time. Because that's over 98,
I think people are going to...
100 is going to be awesome if it works out how we think it's going to.
I scored. Yes. I won the Stanley Cup.
Yeah,
I
it
think,
will be a great one, and it's perfect for this show because it just makes sense. And there's a couple other ones that related to this area. Like, obviously we're Tampa Bay based. I've lived there for years. Ed's been there longer than me. Even we both played in bands in Tampa for over 20 years. Um, but some of the guests we're working on do have Tampa ties and strong Tampa ties. And one guy, I mean, I guarantee you won't find another. I don't know if he's ever done an interview before, but he's definitely in the roots if he comes on here. We haven't figured out exactly how we're going to do this. We're working on some
yeah,
stuff.
that one's gonna.
That's going to be
that's either gonna be the end of the Tampa Morgue or
you just never
I don't
know.
know. Yeah, because and then we were talking about that yesterday, and I was just like, oh gosh,
Got to
because
handle it with
it
care.
makes
That
sense,
episode.
right? I mean, to have somebody like that on, but then we were also talking. He's not tech savvy, so we have to make sure because
That's scary.
again, this is the new thing. We want this show to sound. I mean, I made sure me and Tony had like great, like we had recording mics that we use for recording vocals, like live. Like in a studio, and
If you go
it
back and
sounded
listen to those episodes, you'll
it
hear
sounded
like
good. It didn't sound
yeah,
bad,
the minor
but then
leagueness compared to now.
but then
So
I hooked up. I bought this mic on a whim, and it sounded ridiculously killer. And then you came into town, and you ordered one while you were here, and we've been using them since. And you could hear the difference in the
oh,
quality
totally.
of the show. I mean, for us anyway. So we're trying to make sure that the people we come on, so we're not, hey, how you doing it?
We're really good.
You know what I mean? And we don't
The
want that.
whisperer.
Yeah, or not the whisper, just like that.
Yeah.
Like certain people, I don't want to say anything, but there were a couple that when we were listening, you could hear like,
Oh yeah, you had to
like
adjust the
like
shit.
Darth Vader was on, and it's like, holy cow, because they get sensitive earphone mics for their phone or whatever, and it just picks up. I mean, you can hear a fart, even if it's a silent one, you pick it up.
The
So
volumes can always be an issue as we, even tonight
we've
we
had
had
a
some
couple
volume
where it was
issues that
like,
we have
we
to deal
always kid
with.
around with the one time. It was like, hey, how you doing, man? It's like,
That was our early
wow.
days. Yeah, that
Yeah,
was
man. It's like, holy shit, my ear just
yes.
flew out.
That was the
Uh,
loudest interview we ever did on the other end. So
and that's where I think I learned how to edit real quick. Because,
yes.
because a lot of times this is just a file. Like, and I'm editing songs in and doing whatever. When Tony has to send me, separate tracks and I have to try to fix shit, that's when we go off the rails because, it's a pain in the ass. But we've been lucky for a
Well,
long
the
time.
volumes are kind of raw. I'm sure tonight's episode. We're going to have to do some stuff with, but that's what we do. And there's a lot of behind the scenes shit that no one ever sees, as we always say. Like that's
No,
pretty much how it goes.
but
You
we do
know.
this because we enjoy it. And so, yeah, he was a great interview, man. So I hope people enjoy it.
Yeah, and that's 97, episode 97 in the books. And as we always say, I'll let Ed give the spiel of where you can find us at.
Yeah, man. Apple Music, Spotify. I heard we were on Amazon podcast now, so
Yeah.
that's awesome. YouTube for just audio, the Tampa Morgue at gmail.com for correspondence. Our Instagram is where we do a lot of, you do a lot of, like I wake up every day, hey, news Tampa Morgue. I'm like, what the fuck you put up now?
Yeah, I need to put up the pictures from the anal vomit show too. Speaking of, I'm glad you reminded me. There is video up
And
there.
I'll edit a little clip and we'll put it up from when Chicago Joe gives us the
Acid
bath.
bath review,
Yep.
which he'll be on next week. He'll be on the same episode with Adam Scott. He'll just be, he'll be on the
Yeah, it'll be
intro
a
with us talking
quick,
about the
just
show.
to give us the ins and outs of the show since this piece of shit didn't go.
Fucking
I'm a
guy.
piece
But,
of
and
shit.
didn't leave there till the sun came up from what I hear, so it should be interesting.
That will never happen. That would have been, I can promise you it would have been showing up when they opened, and as soon as it was thank you, good night, I'm waving, walking out because I know. First of all, my thing was, man, I was gonna just drive down here late. I'm like, dude, you know what's gonna try to be like finding parking
Oh,
and
it was a
safety?
circus there.
Like,
Everybody I know was there, dude. Like I said, man, it
well, I
was
was like
insane.
thinking late. If you get there after they open, you're not finding parking. And I'm
No.
walking, and I'm solo. So, what's to say somebody ain't gonna try to rob me and I'm gonna go to jail?
Yeah.
I mean, after the show, you know. So it's just that venue is awesome. The parking there, absolute, like the State Theater, fucking sucks.
Yeah, you have to get there like about 3:00 in the afternoon to get a parking spot at the state. I remember.
Well, and that was a Saturday, right? So I guess that wouldn't have been super bad because a lot of those, stores down there close pretty early. But still, it's just a rough. Like today, we were going down there at 4:30 to get to Janice Landing for that show when traffic's going to be dispersing between 4 and 5 from all those businesses and people working
Fuck
downtown.
that.
Nope.
Yeah, fuck
I
all
mean, I
that.
love music, but man, you picked the wrong venue and the wrong time to put that show on.
Yeah, and I feel bad for the opening band, but
But it is what it is. You know what
it
you're
is.
in for, brother. Been
Yeah.
there, done that.
Indeed, and as always, we appreciate everybody who listens to the Tampa Morgue. And like Ed said, you know where to find us, or you can email us at thetampamorgue@gmail.com. Yeah, and I've had a few questions about this. I will answer really fast. You can send us requests for bands to come on, and we'll see what we can't guarantee anything, but we'll see what. I mean, there's been a couple that have been suggested that might have. Okay, I'll get a hold of that guy. We can do that. So, everybody else, we appreciate you listening. Ed, R.I.P.
Yes,
Miso the
sir.
cat, and we'll be back next week with Adam Scott from Cardiac Arrest on the Tampa Morgue. Thanks for listening, everybody. Peace.
See ya.
This is King Fally from Deceased, and you just listened to another episode of the Tampa Morgue. Tune in next week and stay fucking dead.